last class of this topic, we saw the test equipment, and we have also seen how the data is presented and how it is interpreted, okay, in order to know the presence of active defects. So, here also, as you would have realized by now, the indications are indirect. Okay. You have to interpret the results. Okay. So, as I said before, whenever the results are subjected to interpretation and whenever they are indirect, you need to calibrate the system before you can use it. Okay. So, in this case also we need to do that. So, let us see in this class today how the calibration is done, and then we will see some other aspects, and today we are going to finish this particular chapter. So, as you would have seen before, in order to calibrate a system, you need to have some reference which could generate a signal which can be used as a defect signal and calibrate the instrument. Okay. So, in this case also you need to simulate acoustic waves which come out from defects. Okay. So, you have to use a pulse generator which can simulate acoustic emission which comes out from actual emission events. Okay. So, you can use simulated waves generated by a pulse generator. But the main difficulty in this is to simulate actual event, it is not so easy, okay, because the actual events happen due to some kind of damage and moving defects, and they generate these acoustic emission signals with particular frequencies and particular energy levels. And if you want to simulate that, it is very difficult to match the parameters of the signals which are coming out from actual defects. Okay. So, that is the difficulty, that is the challenge that one would face in this case when you try and calibrate the system by simulated waves through a pulse generator. Okay. It can still be done, but there will be these concerns and limitations. Okay. So, in order to overcome this limitation, these two persons came up with a method or came up with a source which is very close to an actual acoustic emission source. Okay. So, this source or this method is named after the inventors Su and Nielsen. So, this is known as a Su-Nielsen method or Su-Nielsen source to calibrate acoustic emission system. Okay. So, let us talk about this method. This is a very simple method, but still quite effective. You do not really need high end instrument or expensive pulse generator and things like that. What you need something which can generate these acoustic emission events, like what you get from damages or defects inside a component. Okay. So, instead of using a pulse generator, why not use some damage phenomena itself? That was the idea behind this particular method. Okay. So, that you would be able to generate waves which are very close to actual acoustic emission waves. So, what is done in this case? All you need is a 2H pencil and you simply have to break it. Okay. You have to simply break the lead of the pencil, and due to that fracture event, okay, you could generate lot of acoustic emission. So, as I told, it will be like a phenomena, like a damage phenomena which is similar to the damage and defects that you can expect inside components. Okay. So, you take this pencil and then extend the lead up to about 3 mm, (2.5 mm or 3 mm), and this pencil lead is, the size of the lead is 0.3 mm. So, then you take it on a surface, or you can take it on the surface of the component being examined, that itself can be used to break it. Okay. But you have to break it at a particular angle, which is 30 degree. Okay. So, you take the pencil at that particular angle, and break this lead by applying some pressure. So, when the lead is broken, suddenly it will release lot of stresses, and that will be released onto this surface, which will generate lot of vibrations in the atoms at the surface, and that is how this acoustic emission will be created. And since it is coming out from a fracture phenomena, this will be very close to actual acoustic emission events happening inside a component due to a damage. Okay. So, this is how they came up with this method, which is a very simple yet very effective to simulate and calibrate acoustic emission systems. So, then you can place the sensor close to this, and collect these acoustic emission waves, which are generated due to the fracture of this lead, and these waves now can be used to calibrate the system. Okay. Now, the other important aspect about acoustic emission testing, or for that matter for any other NDT testing, is to filter out the noise. Okay. Because we have seen in this case especially that there could be lot of noise. In fact, anything below that threshold which is defined is considered as noise. Okay. And if you have a very large amount of noise in the signal, then it can create lot of confusion during the testing. Okay. So, it is necessary to first identify the noise and then filter it out before you project the data onto the display system for interpretation. Okay. So, that is the next thing that we are going to talk about as to how to filter out the noise from an acoustic emission signal. So, there are different methods by which you can do it, but you need to use a particular parameter which is closely related to the noise or to the quality of the signal, and using that particular parameter you can first identify the noise, and then using the instrument and the electronics that you have, you could filter out the noise. Okay. So, if you remember, I told you this parameter duration is a parameter which can be used to filter out noise, because this is closely related to the quality of the signal, meaning the duration of acoustic emission signals coming out from different sources will be different. Okay. So, since it qualifies the signal in that manner, this particular parameter can be used to identify the noise. Okay. That means, if it is not matching with acoustic emission signal which are supposed to come from active defects, then you could say that that particular signal which is not matching the duration of actual acoustic emissions is some noise which is coming out from some other sources which are no way related to the sample and the defects inside it. Okay. So, true hit duration or the duration of actual true acoustic emission signal is in this range. It is in the range of 30 microsecond to 2 millisecond. Okay. So, as I said, if you see a signal with other values of duration which is not in this range, then it can be identified as a noise. Okay. So, that is how this particular parameter, as I said before, can be useful to filter out the noise, but it has to be done in a particular manner through some controlled experiments, and that is what we are going to see now. So, you first collect the hits or the emission signals and then plot them as a function of the amplitude. So, this will be the data will be in terms of the duration, as I said, that is the parameter that we are going to use, and you plot it as a function of the amplitude. Okay. So, if you keep getting acoustic emission signals from a particular source, so that signal will increase over time in size and in strength. So, if you consider the signals, you will find them coming like this, which will be very distinct and strong indications, and this will be all above the threshold. So, if the threshold is defined here, so the actual acoustic emission signals will be first of all above the threshold, and they will have enough amplitude and they will be very strong, which can be easily identified. Okay. So, if you keep plotting the duration as a function of the amplitude, you will see this will lie along a band like this. All the emission signals which are coming out from actual emission events will lie along this band. You might be also observing some discrete signals coming here and there. For example, you could have something above the band like that, or you may also see something which is below the band, okay, like this. Okay. So, since these are not falling within this particular band, this itself is indicative enough that although these are being picked up by the sensor, these are not really coming out from actual acoustic emission events related to defect and damage in a component. Okay. So, you should have some idea about what could be those other non-relevant sources of emissions which may look like actual acoustic emission events and will be picked up by the sensor. Okay. So, the non-relevant signals can come from sources like electromagnetic interference. So, if you talk about the sources of the noise, it can come from electromagnetic interference, sliding or rubbing of metal surfaces, then you could have emissions coming out from leakage, or some radio interference. So, it could be electromagnetic interference or radio interference, and this kind of signals will typically have a larger duration compared to the duration of an acoustic emission signal coming out from defects. Okay. So, these all will have typically larger duration, and that is how based upon this parameter you could identify noise, like what you see here, they do not fall into this band. So, if you see this kind of signals which are above the main band, this could come from friction or leaks. So, these have more threshold crossing, as you could see, because they are above this band, and then you can have these kind of signals which have less threshold crossing, and this may come, for example, from an electromagnetic interference. Which will have less threshold crossing and different duration compared to actual acoustic signals. Okay, so, like this, with the help of this particular parameter duration and with the help of this kind of plot, you can identify the noise which are there in the signal, and then with the help of the electronics in the instrument you can filter out this noise and finally characterize the actual data and display it. Okay. So, this is an important aspect of this technique to filter out the noise first. And finally, we will talk about one more aspect of this technique, which is about source location. This technique is primarily qualitative. It does not give you any quantitative information as to where the source is located or where exactly the location of the source, how big is the source and so on. However, you would be able to get some idea at least about the zone from which these emissions are coming out. Okay. So, that you could take corrective measures around that particular area where you see that lot of emission events are coming out. Okay. So, in order to do that you need to use this method which is known as source location scheme. So, you can place the sensors at particular locations on the component or on the structure, and then you collect the signals from them, and based on at what time the signals are being received by different sensors, you will be able to get an idea about the location. For example, if you have a linear kind of structure, you could simply put two sensors at a particular distance from each other, sensor 1 and sensor 2, and let us say these are placed at a distance of L from each other. So, let us say if you have a source somewhere here, okay, you will be able to receive the signal first by the sensor which is closer to it. Okay. So, you will receive this signal by this sensor at time t1, and by this sensor it will receive by time t2. So, if the source is closer to sensor 1, then t1 would be less than t2. Okay. And if you have an idea about the velocity of sound waves, because end of the day these waves which are generated are sound waves. So, if you know the velocity of these waves inside the sample material, let us say the velocity is v, then you will get an idea as to how far is this defect from this center line let us say if that distance is x. So, you will get to know about x if you know the velocity, because we know that velocity into time is distance and time we have already calculated. So, if you take the difference between t 1 and t 2, if you take the delta t and if you multiply this by the velocity, then you will know this distance x from the center line. Okay. So, this is how you will get an idea about the zone or the location from where these acoustic emission signals are coming out with respect to this central line. Okay. So, this is if you have a linear system. So, this is a linear location technique, but you might have some complex geometry, or the structure could be complex, which may not be exactly linear. So, in those cases this kind of linear location technique cannot be used. So, if you have other complex kind of component or structure to be inspected, and if you want to get some idea about the location of the sources, then you have to use the zonal location scheme. So, in the zonal location technique, you have more than two sensors. Which are placed at different locations on the structure which is being examined. And in this case the placement of the sensors is critical, because where you place the sensor at that particular location, you should have a potential source of acoustic emission around it. And also, in order to get an idea about the location or the zone of the source, the sensors should be placed in a particular pattern. Or in some geometric shape, so that you know how exactly the sensors are placed and what is the distance between them and so on. Okay. For example, 3 sensors can be placed in a triangular fashion. Let us say these are the 3 sensors A, B and C, which are placed in these 3 locations. Okay. So, like that you should place them in a particular pattern or in a particular shape, so that you know how exactly they are placed, and as I said, what is the distance between them, so on, so that you can identify the locations of the acoustic emission source around them. Once you do that, then based upon the time at which these sensors are receiving the signal, you can get an idea that within this triangle, for example, where could be the location of the source, whether it is close to the A, close to B or close to C. Okay. Let us say for example, if you if the time the signal takes to reach sensor A is t1, and it is T2 and T3 for sensor B and C. Then if T1 is equal to T2 and T3, okay, then you know that the source is right at the center of this triangle, because all the three sensors are receiving the signal at the same time. Okay. On the other hand, if these times are not equal to each other, then you know that the source is not located at the center, and depending on whether sensor A, sensor B or sensor C is receiving the signal first, you can say that whether the source is located close to sensor A, close to sensor B or close to sensor C. Okay. For example, if sensor A receives the signal first, then T1 will be less than T2 and T3, and then you can say that this acoustic emission source is possibly close to closer to sensor A compared to sensor B and sensor C. Okay. So, this is how when you place a number of sensors around particular locations, this will give you an idea based upon these different times that these sensors receives the signal at, and that is how the zonal location technique will indicate the zone or the location from where the acoustic emission signals are coming out. So, this is how you will be able to get you will be able to know at least the zones from where these acoustic emissions are coming out, and accordingly you should target those areas while inspecting and taking corrective measures. Okay. Yeah, so, with this we come to the end of this particular topic. So, let us take a moment to summarize before we close up. So, first we learned about the sources of acoustic emissions, and then we saw it is due to a stress field or moving defects which generate some kind of elastic wave inside the material, and that is how these emission waves are generated. Okay. And then we talked about the sources with respect to different kind of material and systems, like in metals, composites and concrete. And we had picked up couple of examples. One was in metal, another was about a propagating crack, and then we saw how this kind of phenomena can give rise to acoustic emission, and what are those parameters which control the emission levels for a particular phenomena. Okay. So, we had seen that for two cases, one was for a propagating crack and another was for phase transformation in a metallic system. Then we talked about signal types, in which case we saw there are two types, one is continuous and another is burst type, and then we saw the signal parameters and also learned about how these parameters are used for doing acoustic emission testing. Then we talked about these two effects, Kaiser-Felicity effect, which describe the relationship between the loading history and the acoustic emission events. and then finally, we saw how the data is displayed in different forms. We also learned about the calibration, that Su-Nielsen method, and finally, we also learn about these source location schemes, which can give you some idea about the location of the source. If not the exact location, at least it can indicate from which zone these emissions are coming out. So, we have learned about that also, and with this we close this chapter. So, that means in the next lecture I am going to come up with yet another new topic. So, I am going to stop here today. I will see you next time with that new topic. Till then, bye bye and take care.